Okay, that's something we may come back to because I think it's an interesting thing that
Okay.
appears to work across culture, not just specific to one regional difference kind of thing. Um,
Now, this next slide is a very interesting one as well. So the question is what do people think is the status of consciousness in the relation to the brain? And you can think that the if you look at the figures for atheism and agnosticism, then you'll see that not every atheist and agnostic, if you look at the figures from the previous slide, and believes that consciousness is only in the brain. And you'll see that here the UK has the highest figure, 38%, and behind that figure, more young people, they're 25 to 34, under 34, think that consciousness is in the brain. And consciousness beyond the brain, as you would expect, because it's only in the brain, is highest in the UK. Beyond the brain is lowest in the UK. And in France and Germany, a quarter and a third think that consciousness is beyond the brain. Now, what's interesting, I think, in this slide is that a third of the sample say, well, we can't know. They're agnostic, which is far more than people who say they don't know. And so if you put the don't know and the can't know together, then you get, 45% roughly. And so there is a sort of element of mystery here. And I suppose I would have, I think I would have tried to remove that third category because I think it's sort of, no, can't know, is a little bit dodging the issue. Um, and so I would have preferred the survey not to have had that, to have had in the brain, beyond the brain, and don't know, rather than can't know and don't know.
was Rupert Sheldrake able to make any observation about this particular data? Because all of his experiments with the sense of being stared at, the perceptions of animals in relation to their owners, etc. Um, I might have expected that there would be a higher response rate amongst the scientists who work with, in biology particularly, or zoology, a sort of an awareness of, maybe things don't stop at the surface of the skin. But was Rupert
Well, I
able to
think
make any
I
observation
mean,
about it?
no, these figures are, well, we've got some of Rupert's questions coming up later, but these figures are, I think, fairly standard. I mean, among neuroscientists, as you probably know, it's very rare for people to believe that consciousness is beyond the brain or can be beyond the brain. But that's mainly because of, as you'll see later in the survey, ignorance of the data. That people that talk about, jump to conclusions about these areas when they simply don't, they're not acquainted with the literature. And there's no incentive to be acquainted with the literature, but because there's a self-reinforcing system that if you're going to conform to the expectation of a scientific view, then you've got to be very careful about the opinions you voice if you want your career to stay on track.
Yeah, very good point.